France is looking to make catcalling a crime and fine offenders. Now, on Monday, October 16th, Marlène Schiappa, France's junior minister of gender equality, said that France was exploring the idea of fining individuals for street sexual harassment and how much the fines would cost. Now, Schiappa said the government was going to consult with professionals on the legalities of such a proposal and create workshops for citizens across the country. Now, this all came about after France's version of the hashtag #MeToo, but their hashtag was expose your pig, because France is awesome. Because France is awesome. So, they haven't obviously made this into law yet, but they're looking into it. And I don't know how it would be enforced, right? I mean, presumably, if you are being catcalled and you're on the street, next to a man and you confront him, that's a danger, right? Or, staying nearby and calling the police, that's also a danger because you're presenting a physical danger for yourself. So I'm not sure how this would work practically, but I do think it's important to recognize that they're trying to take steps into the right direction.
Legally, a lot of this is covered in American law. Legally, it should technically, you're protected against this kind of behavior. Usually it's under a disturbing the peace statute. New York, for example, I mean, the wording of these are pretty hilarious, but I mean, they're strange. It's like obscene language or gestures in public. If they do it at least twice, they're up for a $250 fine and 15 days in jail. Alaska, Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Kentucky, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania, it's illegal to follow people. It's not illegal to catcall them or do what I just said happens in New York, which is illegal, but you can't follow people. DC, abusive language or conduct or disturbing a person's path. So a lot of these places have this nebulous idea. So the law is on the books in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But the ability to then document that effectively, go to a police officer and tell them that's what happened, that's another story.
Yeah, I think that's the question is like, how do you operationalize these kinds of laws? And I think there are other models for kind of how to implement this. I think Portugal has like some stuff on the books and Belgium. So France has models to kind of frame this legislation around, but again, how do you do it? I do think there is something to having these offenses categorized under sexual harassment or sexual assault as opposed to
disturbing the peace.
Because I think it creates, a framework for kind of understanding that these are gender-based offenses, right? Like, and I think might stigmatize some of the offenders. And I wish there was a way to make it like public record, so you could
that's interesting.
So you could like look up before you go on a date with someone. How many times have they catcalled?
Like, does everyone need a body cam? To be like, all right, here's my trip today.
Yeah, how do you exactly
walking around? And in Iowa or in Hawaii, it's like after you tell them to stop and they don't, they're up for $1,000 and 30 days in prison. Here's my video from my body camera.
But guess what? Telling somebody to stop while you're on the street, whether you're by yourself, is a real danger. Like that's something that can be very if you're in already an intimidating situation, already having sort of that like precursor to before you can get to the next step is problematic in itself. Because if I'm on the street and there's a man coming towards me who's probably got another 100 pounds on me, you know what I mean, is twice my size, and he says something inappropriate to me, and I don't necessarily see that I have a safety net of people around me with eyes or could hear me or whatever, and I tell him to stop, I'm putting myself in a really precarious situation.
Yeah, I think women learn to de-escalate, right? As uncomfortable as those situations are, we learn to de-escalate for fear of, violent encounters. So I wonder, like, who would be trained? Like, are cops supposed to intervene when they see this happening? Like, because I don't trust that at all.
I've had cops catcall me.
Right. So it's like, how do you operationalize this, and how do you train folks to kind of identify that it's happening? Is this something that we collectively do as citizens, like calling it out?
Yeah.
Right now is a watershed moment, hopefully, in this all. In that the Harvey Weinstein thing's in the zeitgeist today. We covered 2 stories. I hope it continues this way. But the sad part about that is like, well, then we have to expose more and more stuff that has happened. But I think collectively we all understand it happens a whole hell of a lot.
Of course.
All the time, multiple times on your street a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, one of my favorite things that has come out of this, like, of the Harvey Weinstein thing, is that more people are realizing how ubiquitous it is, right? Like, I've had guys be like, wait, like, I know guys that have been accused of this. I'm like, I know you may know that one guy, but you probably know a lot more. You just don't know that they do it. Like, my guess is a big portion of your friends do it because it's so common.
The problem now, one of the many problems, is that with that thing we talked about in a previous story about Representative Johnson, is that the women are afraid and the guys aren't. They aren't afraid of any consequence. And there is no fear of consequence. So whatever we need to do to up, I think, the fear of consequence, at the very least, in addition to just raising people better, that's gonna take, so there's long-term, there's short-term things we can do, and a renewed push in litigating against these kinds of things, making sure they go through. There's so many people who are complicit in this, who have let it go on for so long.
Including our education secretary, who is, on college campuses, right? Like, this is pervasive everywhere, and it's not just the guys who are assaulting women. It's you and your comments on the street, right? It's the little ways that you perpetuate it, and the thoughts and the comments and the ways that you make women uncomfortable that you may not be aware of, or that you actively may be aware of, that you need to start to work on, because that contributes to, like, men need to hold other men accountable for their behavior, and I think that would go a long way.
Help us build independent media together. Come join us, tytnetwork.com/join.